Hey dudes, welcome to Splat from the Past, the only 80s themed horror and sci-fi show where things can get totally radical. Now today, I will be welcoming a Renaissance man in the world of show business, a chameleon amongst chameleons, and I am talking about Jim MacKrell. You all know Jim MacKrell as the cowardly and very evil Rusty Thorn in the 1985 Michael J. Fox cult classic Teen Wolf, but he has a career beyond that. He was also in radio. He was a on-camera newsman. He hosted many game shows back in the day, the Game, Celebrity Sweepstakes, Quiz Kids, and then he started acting. He had movie roles in Annie Hall, Semi-Tough, The Howling, so many different movies, Just Between Friends, and also he's written a few books, Down from the Mountain and Fallen Semper Fi, and I'm having him on the show today to talk about all that stuff. Like I said, he's a Renaissance man. We get to see the points of view from every direction in the industry, and I can't wait. It's going to be awesome. It's the 35th anniversary of Teen Wolf, and it's my third interview, second one this year from that movie. So, here is my interview with Jim MacKrell. Hey, Jim, welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you. How are you?
I am great. How are you?
I'm well, thanks. What's going on?
Oh, nothing much. You know, the weather keeps changing over here in Redding, California, and it's an insane time, of course, but I'm hanging in there.
Good for you. Wear your mask.
Oh, yes, I got plenty of masks.
Well, good, because I was at a pulmonary doctor yesterday with my son, Jimmy, and he was talking about how incredibly important it is for us to wear masks. He said that if we have on a mask, and even if we come within 5 feet of someone with the virus, we only have a 1% chance of catching it. But without a mask, the percentage goes up to 70%.
Oh, it's good, at least for the 1%.
Yeah.
This is such a great honor, sir. Thank you for taking the time today.
Oh, it's my pleasure. My pleasure.
So, going back in time, did you gravitate toward entertainment early on in your childhood?
Well, fortunately, my dad was in radio and one of the pioneers of radio a long time ago. And I was born in Little Rock, Arkansas, and my dad had radio programs on KLRA in Little Rock. And at about 4 or 5, I started going with him. Kind of a country variety show. And so I made my debut, so to speak, at about 5, singing You Are My Sunshine.
Oh, nice.
But because of his affiliation with radio, I was fortunate in being able to start at a very young age. I was doing announcing work for a radio station in New Orleans, WJMR. My dad was the manager, and I was like 13 or so, and they used to call me the junior announcer. So I've been in it a long time.
Nice. Were you active in school plays? Very much in both my junior and senior high school plays. I had I don't remember what they were now, but I know in my senior high school play, I played a guy who were twins, and one of the guys was a ballet dancer, and the other was a football player. That's all I remember about it. Yeah. Now, getting started in radio, I mean, did you feel that it was a liberating type of broadcasting where people could hear your voice and not see you?
Well, I don't know if I gave it that much thought. I just very coveted the fact that you can talk into that microphone and a whole bunch of people can listen to you. I thought that was good. And I spent most of my time thinking that I hope I don't mess up.
Mm-hmm. Did you do any DJ work?
Well, not really as such. There weren't really, in the late 40s and early 50s, there wasn't a lot of DJs as such. I didn't get on that kick until I got to college and worked at a radio station in Beaumont, Texas called KRIC, and I did the 7 to midnight shift, and I loved it. We had a great time.
Mm-hmm. And that was also the era that guys like Tom Snyder and Larry King were starting in radio too.
Well, yes, and one of my cohorts at the radio station across the street, not the street, but across the city from us, was the Big Bopper.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. He was on another radio station there in Beaumont, and he went to the same college I did, which was called Lamar Tech at the time. I had to be the only English major at Lamar Tech, but that's beside the point.
Yeah. What a tragic ending to that guy's life, huh?
Oh, awful. Awful. JP was a great guy, and I'm so sorry he had to pass away that way.
Yeah, it's really sad. Him and Richie Valens and Buddy Holly.
Yeah, all of them. The day the music died.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So, what prompted you to move to Los Angeles?
Well, that's a very interesting story. I moved in radio. Not my last radio job, but my next to the last before my move to California was at WMEX in Boston. And I had a very good rating and did afternoon drive 2 to 6. Well, it happened in 1963 that the President of the United States was here in Dallas, Texas, and was assassinated. And I really took it hard. I was a big John F. Kennedy fan, my wife and I both, and we took it really, really hard. And I just didn't feel like going on the air and being bouncy enough and telling people the time and temperature. And I got a job thanks to the national promotion director at RCA, John Rossica, and they hired me as a promotion PR man to go back to Dallas, which we were very thankful of. Go back to Dallas and work for RCA, which I did. Mm-hmm. And along the way, not Houston, but Texas is a very, very big concert state. And artists can come in here and do a circuit. They can appear in El Paso, and then Dallas, and then Houston, San Antonio, and go back. So one of RCA's big stars who came all the time was Henry Mancini.
Oh, yeah.
And Henry and I was tasked to set up radio interviews for him, and we were at the Adolphus Hotel in Dallas, and one of the TV guys that we had to set up an interview with didn't show. And so Henry and I had an hour there just to sit in the hotel room and chit-chat, and he asked me what I wanted to do. And I said, well, I really always wanted to be an actor. I said, when I was at WNOE in New Orleans, I did plays at the Circle Theater, which was kind of a semi-pro group, and loved it. And I've done plays almost everywhere we've been, and I would like to be an actor. And Henry said, well, you can't do it here in Dallas. He said, you have to be in New York or Los Angeles. And I said, well, that's a very good idea, but I have 2 little kids who enjoy eating. And so he laughed, and he said, well, things open up, Jim. You never know. Well, 2 weeks later, I get a call from Larry Shane, who tells me he is Henry Mancini's business partner. And with Kathy and I, that's my wife, Kathy and I fly down to Houston and meet him at the Wyndham Hotel to have dinner. And, of course, I did. When the celebrities or many of their staff called, I answered that call. So I came down, and about the salad, Larry leaned across the table and said, Jim, Henry wants you to come to Los Angeles and work for us. And I said, can you give me about 15 seconds to make up my mind? And I looked at Kathy, and she nodded. We said yes. And that's how we got to Hollywood.
Wow, so you owe your whole career to Henry Mancini.
Absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt.
Wow.
A shadow of a doubt. And one of the things, when I got there at his office, he was scoring, I think it was Two for the Road. I don't remember exactly.
Yeah.
He was scoring a movie in England. He loved the strings that they had in England. And he was scoring a movie there. So he came back, and I'd been in the office for like 2 weeks. And he called me in. And my first chance to thank him and pay homage, to the great Henry. And he was just the best. And he said, Jim, I know that you're going to do our job very, very well because you're that kind of guy. He said, but there are many workshops and acting classes here in Los Angeles, and you need to avail yourself of those. And I said, okay. And because of his insistence, I was enrolled in the film industry workshop that started off at Columbia Pictures and went from there.
And
I ended up doing the game for Chuck Barris. I went over to Chuck Barris's office, my agent sent me over, to apply for the announcer's job. And Chuck saw me better as a host and put me into that job. And we made a pilot, and Game was on the air, CBS Enterprises. So.
Wow. And then from there, you did Celebrity Sweepstakes.
Yeah, I did a lot in between there.
Yeah.
I did a ton of commercials, a ton of them. I just have to think about it. I did the very first Burger King commercial ever shot.
Oh.
In Diego, yeah. And it's interesting because the girl who played my wife, that's kind of sexy, the young woman who played my wife was Bert Convey's wife, Ann.
Oh.
Yeah. So we reminisced on pilots missed and pilots given. So.
Yeah. You got any good stories, though, about the big stars that were on Celebrity Sweepstakes?
Oh, there were so many, and they were so good. And that was such a fine time, such a great time. I became close to several. One person I came very close to was Dick Martin.
Oh, yeah, Rowan Martin.
And Owen were on at the same time. But Dick and I really hit it off because Dick played golf, and he would invite me, and so we spent loads of time on the golf course and on celebrity golf courses. And he was really a great mentor for me. I ended up being cast in a play in St. Louis, and a comedy, and Dick was very, very influential in going over the play with me before I went to St. Louis and helping me with all kinds of great advice. I just thank him so very, very much. He was wonderful.
Yeah, do you know his do you know his wife Dolly?
Oh, very well.
Very well. I've been trying to get her on the show because it's the 50th anniversary of Beyond the Valley of the Dolls.
Wow.
Yeah. Hopefully I'll get to interview her. Yeah. I watched an episode of Celebrity Sweepstakes on YouTube last night, and I saw another guest of mine, Greg Malavy.
Oh, yeah, Greg worked a lot with us.
Mm-hmm.
We had our own little, I guess you could say, touring company, but Greg was a frequent guest, and Clifton Davis, if you'll remember him,
yep,
the frequent guest. Lucy Arnaz was a guest all the time. Of course, Carol Wayne sat in the center, and we didn't do a show without her.
Yeah.
She was fabulous. But I got to be with Buddy Hackett, and I got to be very close friends with Chad Everett.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And he was wonderful, and I really got along with the celebrities very well. And if I may say so, I think part of it was the fact I never tried to be funnier than they were.
Yeah.
And I learned I tell you who helped me with it more than anybody was Peter Marshall.
Mm-hmm.
Because he had been doing squares so long, and we had mutual connection with Bill Armstrong, who was our announcer and part-time producer. And he had been producer of Hollywood Squares, and he and Peter had been friends for years and years and years. So he was a great help to me. But Peter and I went to lunch, and Peter said, in essence, listen to them and react. Laugh and react. And don't put any star down. And be the straight guy that allows them to shine. And I did.
Good advice. Yeah.
It was so wonderful. Joey Bishop became a good friend. And one of the things Joey taught me, that, and he, oh my God, was he great. And Joey said, I'm going to teach you timing. I said, all right. He said, I tell you what I'm going to do. When we go back on and shoot, when you ask me a question and I get it wrong, I want you to just say wrong and stand there. And I said, okay. So Joey came up with an answer, and I said, I'm sorry, that's wrong. And he got up from his chair behind the thing and walked all the way across the stage and slapped me. And then turned and went all the way back. And I knew to hold it until he got back seated and said, well, we can go on now. The audience loved it. It was wonderful. But he showed how physical comedy can be very good, especially with nothing said.
Yeah, he was one of the greats. And of course, he was in the Rat Pack.
Yeah, oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Did you ever meet those guys?
No, well, I had dinner once with a very, very close friend, Al Schmidt. And Al is probably the best recording engineer in the world, and was a producer at RCA when I was working for Henry. And there was a Italian restaurant in Hollywood right across from RCA called Martoni's. And it was a huge hangout for the music industry and showbiz and all of that. And so Al Schmidt invited me to dinner one night at Martoni's, and I showed up for dinner, and he had already been seated with his company. And as I sat down, I looked across the table at Frank Sinatra. I could not say a word.
Yeah.
I just nodded and smiled. I didn't say a word the whole dinner. I just listened and sucked it up. I thought it was great.
Yeah, that would have been that way too. Yeah.
And another story, a funny story is such, when I was with Larry Shane Music and Henry Mancini, Henry was in the office and he called me and said, come in a minute. And I said, okay. I went in the office. He said, Jimmy, I want you to say hi to Johnny Mercer. And I said, hi, Mr. Mercer, how are you? He said, I'm fine. Henry said, you guys chat a while. I'm going to run down the hall and I'll be right back. And I said, okay. Now, I was sitting there. I did not know that Johnny Mercer was not very well spoken. He didn't talk a lot. He was very silent. And I said, how are you, Mr. Mercer? He said, well, I'm just fine, Jim. Dead air goes by. You been okay? He said, oh, yeah. So that went on about 4 or 5 times. And finally Henry came back, thanks be to God, and I excused myself and went in shaking like a leaf. Well, that night I was having dinner at a restaurant in Hollywood called Appetit Cafe. I don't think it's there anymore. With Bob Russell, who was another one of our songwriters and a great man and a great songwriter. He wrote He Ain't Heavy, He's My Brother.
Yeah.
He wrote Dance Ballerina Dance, and he wrote Mona Lisa. Oh, just a passel of things, especially with Duke Ellington.
Yeah.
And so he and I went to dinner, and I was seated at a table, a regular-sized table, with my back to the front door. And I noticed that Bob looked up and recognized somebody and waved him over. So I didn't get to see who it was until they got up to the table, and it was Johnny Mercer. And Bob said, Johnny, have you met Jim MacKrell, the new kid that's working for Henry? And he said, yes. And before you get started, I've been fine.
Yeah. Show business is exciting, huh?
I love that. I love it. I love it.
I think.
I must tell you, I was having a lunch the other day with the pastor of our church.
Yeah.
On the Tom, and I said, Tom, when I'm laid out in front of you, please tell everybody he had a really good time, because I did. I had a wonderful time. But there's not a thing I would change. Not a thing. And my wife and I have been married 61 years.
Wow.
And she's marvelous. And we're back here now in Houston, Texas, is where we both met. I was working at KXYZ radio station here doing 7 to midnight. And my roommate was a young man that was an executive with Finger Furniture Company. And he and I signed a pact, so to speak, that if one of us brought a girl home or out with a girl, the other wouldn't hit on her. And so the first girl he brought up to the radio station to meet me was Kathy Scanlon. And I married her 3 months later.
Mm-hmm. Wow! Congratulations on 61 years. I mean, most.
Oh yeah, it's super. It's super.
Most marriages don't go that long.
Well, it's her fault.
Yeah, her fault. I think it's ironic you hosted a show called Quiz Kids, because my high school drama teacher hosted a show called Quiz Kids on cable access. He finally stopped doing it about 3 years ago and stuff. Yeah. Did you ever try to host the big shows like Family Feud, Price is Right, or Jeopardy?
Well, that was not my choice. That's the choice of the producers. What I did was I did a ton of pilots for either Quigley or Monty Hall or Jack. Oh my goodness, Jack. What's his name? Jack. Can't think of his name. I just blanked.
Jack Lord?
No, he was in 21 Scandal. Jack.
21 Scandal.
He was the Scandal. He was, my goodness, I'm so embarrassed. I just can't think. I just blanked on it. I can't think of it. I'm so embarrassed.
Oh, it's okay. It's okay.
Anyway, he did Joker is Wild and a whole bunch of things.
Mm-hmm.
And anyway, I did every quarter. I did a pilot, and one for Richard Reed I just loved, called Split Decision. That whole pilot's on YouTube, and I was unlucky in that there were many hits at that time, and they didn't add a lot of new shows. So while I was available every quarter to do another show and did another pilot, they just didn't get picked up because the shows at that time were so hot and so good.
Mm-hmm.
I did a ton of.
Are you talking about Jackie Coogan?
No. Jack Berry.
Oh, Jack Berry.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So, did you study acting with anyone prominent in L.A.?
Well, the film industry workshop was very prominent, and my first class where I was in, Tom Selleck and oh my goodness, Tom Selleck and the Flying Nun.
Sally Field.
Sally was in that, and we had quite a few people that were working in movies. It was a wonderful environment because we actually studied on a soundstage, first at Columbia and then at CBS in Studio Center. And we'd always have guest directors, usually big guest directors. And we would mount our scenes, and they would direct us, and they would have a camera there. It wasn't on, but we learned an awful lot of camera tech. We learned television movies. We learned film, and it was excellent. And I was there for a long time. ended up teaching there. So I had a good time.
Nice, nice. So getting into the movie roles, you were a party guest in Woody Allen's classic Annie Hall.
Oh, my God, that was fun.
Yeah.
That was fun. My agent sent me over to the mansion where they were shooting and said, and all of Woody's shows are unnamed until he names them.
Yeah.
And said, there's a new Woody Allen show going on, and they would like to see you. So I went over at such a time, and a young lady, the assistant director, was there, and she said, thank you and welcome, and thank you for coming, and Mr. Allen would like to meet you. I said, fine, so sit down here. So I sat down at this lunch table they had set up, and over comes Woody Allen. I did not know what to expect.
Yeah.
I did not know what to expect. And he sits down, and he was very quiet and very laid back, and looked at me and asked me a couple of questions and heard me talk. And he said, would you like to be in my movie? And I said, absolutely, absolutely. Because I knew somewhere there were actors in Hollywood that had turned down a part from Charlie Chaplin because it was too small. And I wasn't going to make that mistake.
Yeah.
So they asked me to come back in the morning and be there at 8 o'clock. So I got there at 8 o'clock, and the same AD picked me up and put me down by the breakfast table and said, Mr. Allen's going to come over and eat with you. And I said, great. So Woody comes over with his tray and a yellow pad. And we started just talking like you and I are right now.
Yeah.
And he was paying very much attention and writing all at the same time. And when he finished, he tore out 5 pages of that yellow pad and handed it to me and said, these are your words.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Go ahead.
Went into my dressing room, and I learned them. I learned them because they were Woody Allen's, and because that's what I'm supposed to do, and I got them down pat. Now, after the movie was over, and it won, I'm at home with my friend Ed Patsy Nelson.
Yeah.
And Ed and I had worked on Capital together, and he was asking me about Annie Hall. And I told him the story just like I told you. And Ed said, oh, my God, go get those papers. I'd like to see them. And at that time, I got sick at my stomach because I had thrown them away.
Yeah. I heard.
Whenever I was working as an actor, I would always get rid of the pages after I knew the lines because I didn't want to, a crux. So I would get rid of the pages. Well, that didn't turn out too good with Annie Hall because I would have had 5 pages of handwritten Woody Allen.
Yeah.
Like, priceless.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that whole party scene. He's making fun of the way people talk in Hollywood.
And weren't there a lot of folks in there?
Oh yeah, Jeff Goldblum was in there.
Yeah, absolutely, and that was one of his first jobs.
Mm-hmm. A lot of people, yeah. Just making fun of the way people talk in Hollywood. Not only is he a good agent, he also gives good meaning.
That's right. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
Then you did the Burt Reynolds football movie, Semi-Tough.
Yeah, well, Burt and I got to be friends when I was doing the show for Chuck Barris, the original show I did called The Game Game. Mm-hmm. And Burt and Doug McClure, who was his very, very good friend,
yeah,
were on a lot. They were on a lot together. They played off each other, and they were marvelous. Burt was one of the best game show guests you could have. He was just terrific.
Yeah.
And so we became friends and hung out together and had good times and crazy times, but good times. And we became very, very good friends. And so when Semi-Tough came up, I got the job. The funny thing about getting that job was that I my agent, Ray Sackheim. He said, "What did you do to so-and-so, a big casting director?" I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "She's raving about you, and she met you on an elevator." And I said, "What?" I said, "Yeah, I was at the 9000 building seeing somebody, and I was on the elevator, and she was on the elevator, just the two of us. I just nodded and said hello, and she said hello, and went down and went in and called my agent and said she wanted me to come in to meet Michael Ritchie." And so I went in to meet Michael Ritchie, and it was just me. There was nobody else in the interview. I'd never seen that before. And I went in to meet Michael, and he was very nice. And he said, "Pull your chair up." And I pulled it up. He said, "No, closer. I want our knees to touch." I said, "Okay." So we do that. He said, "Now read for me." And he said, "No, smaller. Read as if you're in a car." I said, "Okay." And I did it. He said, "Fine." He said, "Fine. Good." He said, "Thank you. That's all I need, and we'll see you." And I said, "Thank you." And as I walked out and was crossing the parking lot, Michael came running out of the little office and said, "Wait, listen to me." I said, "Yeah. Don't memorize that script. It will change by the time we get to Miami." And I thought, apparently I got this job. Well, I did, and I ran into Bert, of course. And Chris Christopherson and Jill stayed at the same hotel I did. Bert had a house. But he greeted me with open arms, and we were back shooting again. And I took my daughters and walked by his trailer, and he opened the door. "Get them good-looking women in here with me." So he was just a dear, dear friend, a wonderful guy. I just have the greatest respect for Bert in the world.
Yeah, he's one of the greats. We just lost Brian Dennehy, and this was his first movie. Yeah. You later did the TV version with Bruce McGill and David Hasselhoff.
Yeah, that was great. That was great. And my friend Dick Martin directed that. And so it was really fun. And Marky Post was she was the girl, and played and it was a great funny time when Dick stopped and shooting and sat down on the couch and asked Marky to come over and talk to him, and they just talked for about 5 or 10 minutes. And Dick said, "Okay, Marky, did you understand now that we carried on about a 10-minute conversation and you didn't have the need to get up and walk around?" He said, "So stand still so we can shoot you." That was great. And Bruce was great. I really liked him an awful lot. David was very nice too, but he was a little more standoffish than Bruce was.
Yeah, Bruce McGill is a very underrated actor, I think.
Oh, I think so too.
He's great in everything I've ever seen him in.
I think one of the things that I enjoyed more than anything else was when I did the pilot of Moonlighting with Sybil Shepherd and
Bruce Willis.
It was, and it was marvelous. It was wonderful. Bruce was great. Bruce had we shot late at night, and Bruce had his harmonica with him, which he plays very, very well. And we had a good time. That was great. I liked Sybil a lot. And the whole set was very harmonious at that time. It was very good. And just got along well. I understand that they kind of drifted apart toward the end, and it became hell to work on it, but that's it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I've heard that story, too. That's why they got those huge ensembles now on shows, so it won't happen again.
That's right. That's exactly right.
If the huge stars, get a movie career.
Yeah. That's what happens.
Then comes the first Wolf classic. You were in The Howling. Yeah,
that was fun. I got to tell you, when we screamed that, it scared the bejesus out of me.
Yeah.
I don't like horror films. It scared
Right, Joe Dante.
Yeah, Joe Dante, and he put me in Gremlins to play the same person I played in Howling, Lou Landers.
Yeah.
And when we were shooting, I got a noon call. And by the time I got to the set, it was on Universal.
Mm-hmm.
I got to the set, everybody had gone to lunch. So I'm standing there on the set by myself, and the bar scene was roped off, hot set, they go on it. And all the little gremlins were sitting on the bar scene. What I didn't know was one of the puppeteers was working on his underneath the bar.
Mm-hmm.
And so I walked over and I was curious. I wanted to see him up close and personal. And I got up and I'm telling you, I got about 5 inches away from the face of the thing. And it went, ah!
It scared you.
It jumped about 10 feet. And Joe and everybody was coming back from lunch. And they fell on the floor. They laughed there. They just laughed at that. Yeah. I love that. I love it.
Yeah. I've talked to Dee Wallace and Belinda Blasky. They're both.
Dee was just wonderful. Just wonderful. And Chris.
Mm-hmm.
I got that at first because Joe asked me in the Howling if I ever did television news. Mm-hmm. And I said, no, but I've played one on television. I said, let me tell you the funny part. I said, I have a real good friend, and he's going to go nameless, but worked for CBS. And I knew him when we were working at a radio station in Fort Worth, Texas, called KXOL. And I said, he is marvelous and has all of that anchorman gravitas. And I said, yet, when he just talks to you, he goes right back to Fort Worth and talks like this. Hey, how y'all doing? You know?
Yeah.
And Joe thought that was very funny. He said, can you do it? I said, oh, yeah. So I did. So he wrote in that scene in the Howling where it looks like I'm on camera. I say, good evening. This is WKWK or whatever. And I go, no. Good evening. And Chris walks in, and I'm there in the bathroom rehearsing.
Mm-hmm.
And Chris says, I say to Chris, boy, you got a lot of spunk in that girl of yours. Oh, yeah. He washes his hands and goes out, and I start rehearsing again. So that was the fun thing.
Yeah. Dee, she sent me a Christmas card this past holiday season.
She's just wonderful. She is. Likes her very, very much.
Mm-hmm. She is. And then the...
It was a good time. And to finish it all up, here in Houston,
mm-hmm.
Being directed by my friend Bo Brinkman in The Last Man Club. And I was the star. And that's a good way to go out. It was really a good picture. And it's doing quite well on Amazon. It's being ordered a lot. And it's a good, clean movie and very, very nice and very fun. Bo was just sensational. He wrote it and he directed it, and we had a good time.
I gotta check that out. Yeah.
It's on Amazon. Last Man Club.
Last Man Club.
Yeah. It's about these guys that were B-17 crew in World War II, and now they're all retired. And they had a pact when they were in France and bought a bottle of champagne, and we're going to drink it by the last man of them still alive. And he would toast the others, and so that's what started it with Barry Corbin played one of the parts, and he was dying, and he was in a old folk veterans hospital here in Houston.
Yeah. And
me and Morgan Shepherd decided to go pick him up. And we were going to steal a B-17 and take one more flight in it. So that was the plot.
Yeah, Barry Corbin's a great actor, too.
Yeah. Boy, he's a good guy. He's a good guy. I had some really wonderful experiences of working with one of the best played her father. And we had a scene where I had called her from Detroit and was coming to New York and wanted to get together and have dinner with her because I had some news to tell her. Well, she and her girlfriends at Fame all decide that I'm coming to tell her that I'm getting back with her mother. And what I'm doing is coming and tell her that I met someone else and I'm going to get married. Mm-hmm. So it was a big, twist right in the middle of it.
Yeah.
She handled it so well, and when I told her, she did an Audrey Hepburn in that she cried, but it was one big tear at first that just crested on her eyelid and ran down her cheek. It was marvelous. She was great.
Yeah, she's very underrated too.
I think so too.
Then the Wolf theme comes back again with Teen Wolf.
That was so much fun.
I'm sure you get recognized for this more than anything.
Yeah, well, I ran into I was going to a recording studio to do a voiceover, and the young receptionist there said, "Oh my God, Rusty's," and I said, "Yeah." She knew every line of that movie. She could quote my part, Michael's part, Jim Hampton's part, everybody's part.
Yeah.
She could do it. I couldn't believe it. And we had a reunion of Teen Wolf out in Los Angeles at a theater in Santa Monica. And we got everybody in the cast except Michael, and of course he's got Parkinson's, and he was in Hawaii at the time, but we Skyped him in. Mm-hmm. And we showed the show, and the theater was open to the public, and people came from around Los Angeles and Orange County, and they all had memorabilia from Teen Wolf and things to sign, and it was just amazing. I mean, they knew more about every one of us than we did, and were much more conversant about the movie. They would ask us in great detail. Now, when you and Jim were doing it's just amazing how much they knew about the movie. And we filled the theater. It was great. It was just great.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. I always liked your performance. You're playing this cowardly vice principal who has a history and a grudge against the kid's father.
Right.
And the scene is hilarious when James Hampton makes you urinate in your pants.
Yeah. Well, I tell you, that happened because Jimmy has a habit. Mm-hmm. That is, when he gets a script, he reads it front to back.
Yeah.
Doesn't stop. Reads it front to back. So we were thinking about doing that scene, and I'm almost 6'3", and Jim's not. And they were wondering why I would be, at my size, so intimidated by this little guy.
Yeah.
And Jim said, "Whoa," he said, way up in the front of the movie, he said, Michael asked me, did I ever show the wolf to Rusty? And they said, yes. And he said, what did he do? He said, well, he lost all of his bodily control.
Yeah.
And everybody said, hey, that's the winner. So that's how that came in. And all we had to do is look down.
Yeah. It was perfect.
Oh, yeah.
It was perfect. I just interviewed Mark Arnold, who plays the bully, and he told me that the movie was shelved until after Back to the Future came out because they wanted to make sure that movie was a huge success first.
Well, I think that's true. I've heard that. However, I've also heard that it just lined up that way. Our distributor couldn't get it out in time before Back to the Future did. Mm-hmm. Well, I don't know the real story, and I'm sure he's right. But we did good. We had a good time.
Did Jay Tarsis make everyone laugh on the set?
Oh God, yes. But he also really funny guys, and he's a really funny guy.
Yeah.
Tend to be serious.
Oh yeah, I've heard.
And he was all business, and he was an actor. He wasn't a writer. He was there to perform for, and he did a great job. He did a great job. He was really good and fun to work with, but not any crazier than anybody else. You know, he didn't make us all laugh.
Yeah, he has a web series now. I think it's called Wisdom of an Old Guy, where he's like, you know, in a log cabin, and he like gives advice to the camera, and then they show montages of him living the wilderness life or something. It's pretty funny.
That's great.
Yeah.
Right. He has a great mind. Oh my God, he has a great mind.
Yeah, he's one of the great writers.
Yeah, I think so.
Any memories of working with Mary Tyler Moore and Just Between Friends?
That nothing outstanding as such. I enjoyed it, and she was wonderful. I worked for her husband, Grant Tinker, when I was announcing the Emmys, and he paid me the best compliment I've ever had paid. I was backstage, and Grant said, "Jimmy," he said, "I got to tell you, you're doing a terrific job, but that's what we expect of you." And I thought that was really a neat thing to say. Mm-hmm. And so he and I, Dick Martin and Bob Newhart, played golf at Bel Air together and had a wonderful time.
Nice.
I had a good time, man. I had a good time.
It seems like you always had a good time.
Yeah, I do. I have a good time. I like life a lot.
Oh, that's good. That's good. A lot of people in the industry don't, it seems.
Kath and I have talked many, many times because of our career, both with Henry Mancini, with RCA as well. Yeah. The stories that came through here when I was doing promotion and public relations for RCA were unbelievable. We had many. One of the acts that came through was Chet Atkins, and Chet and I became very close friends. In fact, when Henry offered me the job to go to California, the day later, Chet offered me the job of managing the recording studios in Nashville. Mm-hmm. So I had that big choice, and it was a tough choice, but I think I made the right one because I did well. I just had a great time. My kids had a great time. My friends had a great time. Jim Hampton and I have been friends for a long, long time. And it's very unusual that Jim Hampton and myself and Michael J. Fox all came down with Parkinson's. And I don't think it had anything to do, and I've asked neurologists, and they say it's impossible. But it seems funny that 3 people out of one movie all had neurological problems. Mm-hmm.
Is yours controlled though?
Well, yes, I take my medicine, a lot of it, mm-hmm. And some things on Parkinson's get me down. But the symptoms, I think it was in Michael J. Fox's newsletter, showed an iceberg submerged, and just the top of the iceberg was sticking above the water. Mm-hmm. And it said, these are what's sticking up out of the water are the symptoms that people with Parkinson's, people think Parkinson's has. But the reality is all of the ice under the water, which is really true. You have very strange symptoms. And but as long as I take my meds and I get enough rest and I don't push it, my doctor said I've got to learn to walk and not chew gum.
Oh, yes, I would follow doctor's orders there.
Yeah, I have to focus a little bit more than I used to. I get stopped, as I did with Jack Berry. I get stopped for words that I really know, and they just go away. I just went away. But I am, and he asked me to get back, I am writing again, and I'm working on a new book, which I just love. Friends have talked me into writing because the first 2 books were very good.
Yeah.
The first one sold much better than the second. And I didn't know, the first book, Down from the Mountain, is about a Australian shepherd that lives in Montana and is one of the great herding dogs of all time. And the difference with my books is the dogs can talk to each other. People, as Bandit looks up and says, people can't understand what we're saying. They just don't do good in dog. And so the dogs talk among themselves and bark at the owner, and it takes place, like I said, in Montana, in a small town. And the dog gets lost and is raised by a wolf, Sheena. And then at about a year and a half old, she makes sure he gets back to the herdsman because he as a male, he's going to get into trouble with the wolves because they're going to dominate him. And she gets him back, and he goes on to save the herder again. So it was really fun to do. And now I was thinking, what can I do? What can I do? What can I write to follow that? And we rescued a little Australian terrier, a guy named Rocky. And Rocky walked in my office at that time, and I looked down and I realized since we rescued him, we know nothing about the first year of his life. We know nothing about that. And we don't know how he was treated. And I do know that I was up in the bedroom getting ready to take my clothes off, and I pulled my belt out of the loops, and he cowered and went under the bed. But somebody had beaten him with the belt.
Oh.
So, but my book now is about a little Australian terrier that's owned by an elderly couple in Meyerland, Texas. Meyerland is part of Houston. When Hurricane Harvey came, it dumped all that water, and Meyerland flooded, and the dog gets lost, and then travels the streets, and other dogs help him, and in the end, everything comes out good. So that's what I'm doing right now.
Mm-hmm. Well, is writing novels something that you had always wanted to do, and then you decided later in life that you were going to pursue that?
Well, it was. I kind of fell into it. The Down from the Mountain story. I was taking a nap. I'm big on naps. I like naps. And I was taking a nap, and this story about this dog just played through my consciousness like a movie. And when it came to an end, I got up and went downstairs and told Kathy, I said, "Don't talk. Let me tell you this story." So it's fresh on my mind, and I tell her. She said, "Now go write that down." So I went and wrote the treatment down, and it worked from there.
Nice.
And I did it. I just was into it. They call it the dream book because I actually dreamed this story. I don't think there's anything metaphysical or anything about that. It's just that I have really nice dreams sometimes.
Yeah. And this third one that you're working on, is this going to be the last of it, or do you think you'll write more?
I don't know. I so enjoy the process. And one of the things that I'm into right now is, have you heard of Masterclass?
Yes.
Okay. I've got Masterclass. And I just sat through a whole season with James Patterson, which was wonderful. And then David Baldacci. And now I'm into Dan Brown and the Da Vinci Code and how he writes. And he is so thorough. And you pick up so many wonderful things to do. And he illustrates them. So I'm very enthused about learning more about writing. And I like it a lot. I did a lot of news in television as well. And so I was pretty much an accomplished writer, news writer. And I've drifted over to fiction because most news is.
Mm-hmm. So are you mostly retired from everything, though? Acting, voiceover?
I have had it.
And but in the meantime, Last Man Club is available on Amazon.
On Amazon, yeah. It's really a nice movie. It's a nice movie, and it holds together really well. I watched it. I hadn't seen it in about 2 years, and I watched it the other day and liked it an awful lot again.
Yeah.
He had a good crew and worked hard for Bo. Bo is wonderful, and he's such a good writer. And
I'll definitely check it out.
Yeah.
But Jim, I thank you so much for coming on today.
What a good time we've had.
Oh, yeah. You had told great stories, you know. I'm glad that you always have fun.
Thank you.
And I hope you stay safe in this crazy time that we're in.
You too. You too.
And God bless you, sir.
Thank you, sir, very, very much. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you, sir. Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Well, there you have it. Jim MacKrell. Ain't he a cool dude? Man, God, that's the great show business stories, like I said, from all different directions. And I'm so honored I got to talk to him today. If you like this video, everyone, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, add me as a friend on Facebook, join my Tommy Kovac comedian page on Facebook, follow me on Twitter and Instagram, and all that fun stuff. Well, that's all time we have this week on Splat from the Past. Until next time, this is Tommy Throwback Kovac saying, there's no shame in living in the past, because the present sucks. Later, dudes!